Welcome back, Slick Talkers. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Send Squared. So without further ado, go to sendsquared.com to learn more today about the CRM of hospitality. You can grab the link in the show notes to let them know that Wil sent you. And without further ado, we're back to the episode. All right, Slick Talkers, welcome back to another episode where I'm interviewing Jon Gardner, who is the Global President of Development at the F1 Arcade. Now, if you are not following me on LinkedIn, Instagram, or any other social media, or just aren't a friend of me personally outside the podcast, you'll know I'm a big Formula One fan. I'm actually a big motorsports fan. I love the endurance racing series. I love the rally series, world and European. So there's a bunch of awesome stuff inside of the world of racing, but Formula One takes the cake for me. And I watch almost every race every weekend that they're on. And to get approached by the F1 Arcade and to have Jon on as a guest was just an absolute had to be yes, right? If I'm a big super fan, I had to do this. But this episode made sense for you as a listener because hospitality is more than just the building, more than just the technology, no matter how much we want to say we're tech enabled. It's all about the experience, and F1 Arcade brings the experience. And Jon's going to dive into the business of F1 Arcade, how the story all came about, his career, and along with what to expect in the future, and maybe even what a brand like you or me or anyone in the world listening can take from the F1 Arcade concept and apply it to their own business. So without further ado, let's begin and welcome Jon to the episode. You're listening to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, a podcast for those who are in and around the hospitality industry who love, live, and breathe what they do. You can join us for candid and unscripted conversations with hospitality experts and founders as we go deeper into their personal stories while they're sharing their triumphs and trials that got them to where they are today. I'm your host, Wil Slickers, and you're listening to an episode of Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. Now, let's begin. All right, Slick Talkers, welcome back to such a fun episode because we're going to geek out about my favorite topic, hospitality. Just kidding. We're going to geek out about Formula One. If you know anything about me outside of the podcast, anything outside of business, anything outside of our industry, you'll know that I love Formula One, motorsports racing, anything that involves a car, basically, I'm a fan of. And so when we had Jon and his team kind of approach us about doing an episode together, I couldn't help but say yes. And so for all of my Formula One, F1 car enthusiast listeners out there, get ready for a fun episode because Jon Gardner, welcome to the podcast. So excited to have you on and to geek out today.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it,
Well, for the Slick Talk listeners that don't know who you are the global president of F1 Arcade, which is an experiential, I don't even know what to call it, like just an experience. It's such an attractive, a cool, fun way of getting Formula One fans and non-Formula One fans into motorsports, into racing. So Jon, without me butchering the description of F1 Arcade, can you describe who you are, and then two, what the company is and what you guys are moving forward with a bunch of your locations across the globe?
You're doing really well, Wil. Maybe I can just let you keep going on explaining what it is, but hopefully I can do as well as you're doing. Yeah, absolutely. So my role is global president of development right now for the concept. So I focus all on new things for the U.S. and pipeline construction, design, project management, anything new that we're looking forward from the U.S. and international as well. So we get a lot of really exciting growth plans that are owned and operated UK, US, and then also international with franchisees, which has been a lot of fun to dive into. So that's where my day-to-day typically sits amongst a few other things. But yeah, in terms of F1 Arcade, we've tried to take the thrill and the glitz and glamour, we would say, of Formula One and tried to bring that to a concept to where you can walk in and feel like you're in the Paddock Club for those F1 fans out there and have the exceptional hospitality with the cocktails and the food, as well as the ambiance and atmosphere from a late night to family event during the days to after work drinks. It's just something for everyone. So around beautifully designed areas that are crafted to make you feel like you're being transported to something else that you've never seen before with all those things. But ultimately, as well as part of the experience, being able to feel that you're in a actual Formula One car 1% of people, Will, as a fun fact, is get to go to a race in their lifetime. Like less than 1% is what F1 told us. So we tried to understand is how do you take that experience and make it for everyone? So I think that's where the simulators come in, which we've got, anywhere from 69 to 93 simulators and per venue that we've got. And the idea is that when you get in that simulator, you're gripping that wheel, you're getting in, it's a full motion simulator. So you're actually feeling like you're in an F1 car. So again, only, 20 drivers a year get to experience that. And so we're bringing that to you. So when you're bumping Lewis Hamilton going around the first turn, or you're down the straightaway passing somebody, the ability is exceptional.
Yeah, 20 drivers until next year, though. So we have 22.
Yeah, there's always hope. There's always hope for everyone out there.
Yeah, you got 22 drivers on the grid next year with Cadillac coming in. So it'll be a fun addition to the simulator. I'm so excited by this. And just for the visual learners out there that are listening to this episode and not watching the video, for the visual component, I would guess, can you tell us how many locations are open of the F1 arcade? Where are you guys trying to expand into now? And then also, maybe you weren't an F1 fan before joining F1 Arcade and working with Adam Breeden, which we'll talk about more into this episode. But you became a fan after experiencing the simulator yourself. So can you walk us through kind of what it's like to race inside of an F1 simulator, knowing that it's simulating an F1 car, which is a rocket on wheels?
Exactly. Yeah, I know we're going to touch base on my background a little bit later, but yeah, absolutely. When I went, so there's, in terms of locations right now, we've got 2 UK locations open in London, Birmingham, and then we've got 2 US locations as of today, with another one opening in a month. Actually, not even a month, but 2 weeks. So we're very excited about that. Philadelphia. So Boston Seaport was our first one that we opened in the US. Then we went on to Washington, D.C. at Union Market, and then Philadelphia on Chestnut Street, which again opens later this month. So very, very excited about that. For the rest of the year, we got 3 more sites outside of Philadelphia with Denver. I think your hometown here.
Yes, sir. Well, I can't wait for that. Can't wait for that opening.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. Then we also got Vegas and Atlanta. So again, a lot of fun ahead for the year. But my origin story, absolutely. So when Adam Breeden and I worked together for, I think it's been scary to say, I think 9 or 10 years at this point. So when I first got the call from him and started learning more about what he's created and the concept coming together, I flew over to London to meet him. And, not being an F1 fan at the time and thinking, this is really for me, it's something I want to do. Once I got into the simulator, you couldn't get me out. I think that was the point. I was pretty much sold from that moment when I was racing against him. So what it is, I'm a competitive person as well by nature, Will, but ultimately because you do actually feel like you're in the car and you're taking those turns, and because I'm also a terrible driver, as I've come to learn on those simulators. So I get beat most of the time, but it's still so much fun. I think that's the point. A 7-year-old can do this as well as, a professional sim driver and still have some fun and be competitive. So that made me feel like I can get in here and do this, but also I wanted to win. And there's different levels that you can do. So I started on the easiest one. By the time I was done, I was at the two levels up, trying to test my skills. So my origin story, again, because of the competitive nature of that, because of different tracks, there's different things that you can experience with them. It's different every single time. There's also a little bit of AI in there too, to make sure the drivers will interact with you depending on how you do. If I bump Lewis Hamilton, he might bump me back, and he does, depending on that. So all those things coming into it, which it's hard not to enjoy. Also with the cocktail in hands and some exceptional food as soon as you get out of the simulator, it's hard to say no to that.
100%. It's the experience we all want when we go to an actual race, right? We want to get in the car, go enjoy the rest of the time with our friends and family, have a cocktail, have some food, and watch some good racing. So I maybe not watch, maybe do some good racing, do the actual race itself. But no, it's so cool. And just to hear the story, I was really interested to hear, because I was looking through your LinkedIn, and obviously, everyone knows, we do a pre-chat with all of our guests before we do the actual recording, and hearing about your story and actually connecting with Adam Breeden and your guys' history together and the history of Adam and himself, right? He's an experiential guy where his line of businesses and startups have been nothing but experience concepts, from Bounce to Putt Shack to Flight Club. And I'm going to butcher this, Hingigo?
Hijingo.
Mm-hmm. Hijingo. There we go. And F1 Arcade. So, creating concepts that bring people together, create an immersive experience that make you feel the same way that you felt, right? Where you're I don't want to get out of this car. I just want to stay in this all day. That is such a cool entrepreneurial journey, right? So tell me how I guess the idea of F1 Arcade came to be, how you and Adam started talking about the concept and the business, and just kind of the true origin story after your first sim race.
Yeah, absolutely. So F1 approached Adam in 2020 when all the craziness was happening and said, I think one thing that F1's done an exceptional job of understanding the future. And, I think all sports teams and organizations are struggling with the same issue. Viewership, in terms of people, shorter attention spans is a key point to this. So how do you keep people engaged? How do you get the funnel of fans to continue to be activated and want to be part of this, and to continue to watch it and invest and buy into the sports? F1, I think, is being a newer brand to the US, less so internationally. But, how do you drive that? And they saw an opportunity to where, you got this amazing brand of F1, and how do you bring that to everyone? So they called Adam and had talked through, what's the art of the possible, if you will. So Adam and the team put together and started working through what are the special components of Formula One that people really connect with and draw to, which he's done that for every single concept he's done. Just this one with Formula One being a big brand behind it, being the first time, and understanding the magic behind that. And then how do you incorporate that into four walls, if you will, to make something truly an experience that you haven't had before? And that's where the attention's in the detail and understanding it's not just about the sim racing or just the cocktails or just the food. It's about the design, it's about the lighting, it's about the music, it's about the ambiance. All five senses engaged, and understanding how you bring that together to where people want to come back and continue to come back time and time again.
Yeah.
So I think that's where he pinpointed sim racing was the key driver with this, which might seem obvious at this point. There's a lot of components of how do you drive people through that and get people in sims and out of sims. There's a lot of components that have to come together. So that's the elongated version, Will, I'd say, of, shorter, but the elongated version of the shorter version of how this came together when we met, walking through the business case and understanding, the throughput of people, and also what we had done. When I first showed, we hadn't opened the first site yet. So London opened at the end of 2022, and it started off with massive success. And I think, all of these sites we've been welcomed with open arms in all the cities we've been to, which we're very appreciative of, and looking forward to expand our footprint in the US and abroad.
Yeah, I'm so excited for you guys to expand, but it's also so cool because you also were with Adam in Putt Shack, and it's so funny because your prior life before this experiential hospitality experience, business, and career was in oil and gas. So I can see why you made the transition. It's such a complete night and day career. Can I just ask, in the sense of like, what truly drew you out of your previous life into this new one with Adam, and going from, Putt Shack to F1 Arcade and just all the things that you guys are doing with, remind me, is it Social Club Ventures?
Social Entertainment. Yeah, Social Entertainment Ventures was the name of the company, now rebranded to State of Play.
Okay, State of Play. So with State of Play, just kind of walk me through how this, I would say, like the beginning transition with you personally, because the F1 Arcade concept is awesome, and there's more to go into it, right? Like the software and sims are proprietary to you guys, so people can't play this F1 Arcade game at home or any other simulator, right? So it has to be a arcade like you guys. So it's such a world you've really entered into. I'm just really curious on this transition point with you.
So I graduated from college, and I got a job offer right outside of that. I interned at the company previously, so it was an obvious fit, and it was exceptional. I got to be involved in a lot of bigger deals, contracts, negotiations, and sales, and all those things. Kind of treat what it looked like. I moved very quickly through the company since I'd interned with them for so long. So at 25, I wanted to see what else was next. I actually met Adam. The first time I met him was at his wedding, actually, which was a lot of fun. We played tennis together. He's absolutely smoked me, by the way. He's an exceptional tennis player. Not that I'm fantastic, but I played a little bit. So we bonded over that, amongst other things as well. And so I went back. He was in the UK, came back to the US, and actually had reached out to him to say, listen, I think it's exceptional what you're doing. At that time, he had Bounce Ping Pong, which was one of the first ones he'd really got up and going, and was starting talking some other concepts. He'd worked with Flight Club at the time as well. So that was amazing what he had done. So I wanted to come. I actually offered to come work with him for a year, or 6 months. For free. And so I just want to follow you around. I want to be a shadow and see what happens. Whatever happened at that point, he accepted, and he said if you could fill this role, or just like a project manager role to help him out, then happy to give you that position, and then I could literally follow him around, which I did, which was just absolutely exceptional. The problem, well, I drank the Kool-Aid a little bit too much.
Yeah.
That 6 months went by extremely quickly. And then I found myself working alongside him and the wider team to really be part of these concepts. So during that time, Bounce Ping Pong was operating. When I first joined, it just opened the first Bounce Ping Pong. It's called Ace Bounce in Chicago, which, again, was the first site in the U.S. And then throughout my time, seeing that progress, but also helping transition Flight Club from the UK to the US with some of the other, with the US team. I was still in the UK at that point. And then I actually, from day one from Putt Shack was a lot of fun. So you got to see Putt Shack from literally day zero, as we joke, all the way to about 6 years. I was with Putt Shack and then with the other pieces. So between Bounce Ping Pong, Flight Club transition to the UK, and then transitioning Putt Shack from UK to US, moving back in the pandemic to oversee the growth of Putt Shack with Joe Rankin, the CEO, former CEO of Putt Shack, which was a lot of fun. So then obviously the F1 arcade came along, and that's really the history of where I've got to today.
Yeah. So for listeners listening, it's not like they would see, it's like you went from oil and gas to F1 arcade overnight and just jumped into experiential hospitality. But it's so cool, and it's just such a cool experience, right? I love the stories where a young guy or young gal see an opportunity and say, hey, I'm going to follow you for 6 months and I don't expect to be paid, or hey, I'm just going to go all in and fail forward and just see what happens and how I can create a new life for myself, or a new outcome of how I want my life to be lived. And I think it's such a cool story. That's what the whole podcast, I think, for me, is kind of about with all of our listeners, right? It's usually some person who had an idea or an instinct to say, this is crazy, but I'm going to do it. And it ends up working out, and we end up talking about it. So it's really cool to hear, just like that leap of faith you took.
I should say, well, for the record, he did pay me, by the way. He did give me a salary for that. So I'm sure I'll get some grief. I didn't say that on here. But yeah, I think, as we were looking at, obviously moving from the US to the UK, as then my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, it was, every step along the way. If we get accepted here, we'll take it one step further. So it wasn't immediately obvious that we were doing that moving forward. It was continue to take those steps. And if it worked out, we took one more step with that. So I think that also helped, making sure you don't bite off too much more than you can chew. Yeah. It's just knowing what the next move is and taking that step. If it works out, continue to move forward.
Okay. So John, one of the kind of questions I wanted to ask you that we talked about in our pre-chat was more around transitioning audiences that are specifically geographically kind of attached to a sport or an object or a thing, right? Like where Formula One is very heavy UK, European based. Obviously, a lot of motorsports is, but the American fan base has grown a ton, especially since I became a fan in 2021 with docuseries like, Drive to Survive, etc. So walk me through transitioning, or even carrying through, I don't even know how to say it like properly, like not even carrying through, but attracting audiences that aren't used to such a sport as Formula One, or driving as Americans are. Americans are more used to NASCAR or maybe Indy 500, but not as much Formula One.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think the beauty of Formula One is it attracts so many different types of audiences. The reason that you watch Formula One is probably different than what I'm watching it, somebody else at the same time. So because it's also not as well known and hasn't been in the US, which is growing, you mentioned earlier, we had talked about Drive to Survive has been exceptional for that. But again, you get to know the stories behind the drivers, and you're connecting with that. You're creating a storyline and something that you can hold on to and feel like you're part of the journey with those people. So I think F1's done a great job with that. But I also think, you got such big personalities. I mean, you have to be an F1 driver, I would say. But like Lewis Hamilton's been in this for how many years? But he focuses on so many other things outside of racing. On top of that, he's massively into fashion. So I think, people are interested in that side of him and understanding more about how he brings that, which brings a certain type of, or a different type of clientele or a group that might not be interested in Formula One. But then you've also got his charity work that he's done, which is exceptional. Hearing his origin story of how his dad, which I'm going to butcher this, so I want to be careful what I say, but fundamentally, he wasn't sure he was going to race every single weekend, but dad made enough money that week, they could actually go to the races. So how he started where he's at today is just absolutely an amazing success story in so many levels, but also he's giving back to people. So, people that connect with the charitable giving. I'm saying that just to make a strong point around Formula One as a brand. There's so many different elements of why you might like Formula One. And I think that's what draws all these unique audiences with that. Traditionally, Formula One was always more of a male-dominated sport. It was 75-25 from a viewership perspective. What we see in our venues, and I think that's also leveling out more and more as it gets more popularity amongst other things. But for our venues, we're more like 50-50. female to male ratio. So again, I think that's what that shows. This is for everyone we're trying to create within that. But I think also the brand of Formula One, that transition to what we are, we're really get a chance to be part of the story of Formula One in the US and how that expands.
Yeah, it's crazy because I'm surprised that it's shifting more now. I feel like with the Formula One Academy being an all-female school driving school, with their docuseries coming out, the content and social media, the backstage access, I feel like we see on social with drivers and pit crews and social media teams and all that stuff is so out there, right? That you would think that more people would be attracted to this world.
Yeah, the beauty is I think it stretches beyond the drivers as well. As you get to know the managers, you get to know all the teams involved, and I think you don't really appreciate all what it takes to deliver a Formula One team until seeing behind the scenes. I think it's a lot of fun to follow those journeys as it goes, and I think also Formula was the first one to give that really full access into everything going on, and I think it's obviously paid off in a big way.
Yeah, 100%. And speaking of Formula One as a legacy brand, 75 years of history is no small feat. I can't imagine keeping a brand alive that long. I can only like as my own, brand manager, basically, I'm like, man, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. That's a lot of dedication. But you were kind of talking about, the legacy brand and how they're being able to become more relevant in today's world, in today's consumer, with the fans that are new kind of popping up into this world of motorsports and racing. But there's tons of legacy brands in hospitality in general, from Marriott to Hilton to you name it, right? These brands have been around for 100 plus years and not doing as much immersive experiential concepts, right? Like they're partners and sponsors of Formula One teams, Formula One drivers, even. Hilton does a big campaign with McLaren, my favorite team. And, that's cool, but you don't see them doing the full activation space like F1 is with you guys doing their exclusive partnerships, creating the F1 arcade. So where do you think legacy brands can really shift in today's world?
Yeah, I think, things like you said, Marriott and those types of people, they serve a purpose ultimately. And there's always going to be a market there that are going to go to Marriott regardless of what it is for loyalty or things like that. But I think, again, what people expect more and what we hone in on for our concepts is, again, the wow moments and the factors that you don't expect, the unexpected joy that you're bringing within that. And I think that's where people, and the newer generations, as we continue to evolve and develop, there's more extremes in all of our lives, which is important to say. So, a scary movie, if you look at from like the 1970s versus the scary movies today, you can see the drastic impact that has. So I'd say it takes a lot more to create those wow moments from that. I think it's only going to get harder as it goes with AI and that as that develops. That being said, I think because they were the top companies in their sectors for so long, no one's really disrupted that as of yet. I think to stay on top of that, it's got to do smart partnerships. Like again, Formula One with Marriott makes a lot of sense to drive the other people and to partner with them. But to go above and beyond and create again those wow moments and that extra level, that next level of guest satisfaction is something that we talk about a lot. And guest journeys and just all the pitch points and all the different things that you can create something to where again you haven't seen.
I love that you guys are walking through like guest journeys and experiences, because one of the questions I wanted to ask, or even kind of maybe state, because I think when a first-time listener or a long-time listener of the show comes to and they, their feed on Apple or Spotify and sees Formula One Arcade, global president Jon Gardner on the show, probably like, what does this have to do with hospitality, right? Like this is, I'm listening for short-term rental content, hotel content, etc. But I think the core lesson is that you guys are an experience hospitality focused business, right? Like your consumer, your customer is still at the end of the day, your number one priority, that they have a great time. And so I think that's something you guys have talked about and embraced very well at the F1 Arcade.
I appreciate you saying that, Will, and I appreciate that bringing this up because it's such an important topic. Even to our real estate strategy and how we think about the business, and it impacts everything. Formula One is amazing. They've been absolutely exceptional partners in doing this, but fundamentally, this is a social experience, a hospitality concept. So we put a lot of time and energy in terms of crafting, again, what that looks like. We don't always get it right. Obviously, we're constantly trying to improve and make it better and tweak, make it, which is also part of the fun. But fundamentally, I think that's also, as we look to the future and the cities that we're targeting going into, they're not necessarily F1 fan zones. They're areas that we feel will embrace with the experience that we have and that do enjoy cocktails and do like the exceptional food within that. So I think, again, it's such an important part of who we are. I think Formula One adds, again, a lot behind it, but fundamentally, even if Formula One wasn't involved, I'd say with like Club at the Putt Shacks, you've got as a really strong brand and a really strong offering that people still want to be a part of and do. Yeah. So how do you, again, it's all about, you remember how people make you feel, not what they said typically. So we really take that to heart and focus on how do we continue to make people have the experiences, exceptional experiences in our venues as much as we can possibly impact their lives.
Yeah, that's really hard to do in a business that isn't a restaurant or a hotel, right? Because like people come to the restaurant for the good food, the good wine, the good whatever. Then a hotel, the good experience and stay and sleep. And then for F1 Arcade, obviously they want to race and have fun, but having those hospitality moments. And this is something that you also mentioned in our pre-chat, talking about unreasonable hospitality and kind of Will Guidara's like hot dog concept, right? Where like the one thing this group of tourists didn't get to see while they're spending their time in New York was a hot dog from a hot dog stand. They got to the best restaurants, the best sites, the best hotels, all the stuff, and do all the things. They just didn't get a hot dog from a hot dog cart. And so they go out and they do it and they muster, make it all nice and just blow their trip away. How do you guys kind of train for either being open for moments like that or creating moments and experiences like that? Because it's already such a high intense environment inside, I'm assuming inside of one of the F1 arcades with the racing going on, and you got everyone being competitive, and that just that angst in the room where I'm sure everyone's just like white knuckling the steering wheel, just trying to make sure that they're going to make it to ahead of their best friend or their family member or something like that. So I can only imagine that's already such a high energy room. How do you guys kind of prepare for the hospitality side of this business?
What else would add to there, Will, is a cocktail helps with those nerves a little bit too. So definitely encourage you or what have experienced that part of it too. But it starts with hiring a lot of it and the personality of people that we're bringing into the space, because I think it's you can learn hospitality to do that, but certain people just have a way about them. And I think as we've got such an amazing concept and a group behind us that we put a lot of time into training, a lot of investment into the right people and making sure that we promote them and they continue to evolve in the business. I think that's the beauty of this as well, because we have such unique businesses. There's a lot of inherent knowledge that you obtain or you get as you go through the process. So we really try to focus in on how do we keep that top talent? How do we investing back into that top talent to get it? And also establishing and reinforcing our brand values. And I know that's a buzzword. People say that a lot, but those stories about the hot dog, which is like exceptional, and things like I believe I read somewhere with the Ritz-Carlton, I think any team member has up to $2,000 to help the guests. They could just spend on that. You have to fact check me there, but I think I read that in the book. But those moments to where the team feel they're empowered to impact the guest experience and have a say with that, I think that also giving them some ownership behind that is exceptional. So I think we've also, as a brand, as a industry, entertainment industry, I should say, has a certain stigmas around, typical like the old arcades that you've got, you go there, the games are a little bit crappy, but it's still a bit of fun. You go as young kids. We tried to reimagine what an arcade is into this. And that's why we put F1 Arcade and chose the name, because it comes in, it brings the fun element of nostalgia and what you've got to experience, but with a higher level of hospitality, a whole other level of hospitality and quality of food and drinks and things like that. But it is an education piece to let people and help them understand that you can come here and have an exceptional time as a family, as a date night, and have that really quality food and drinks to round out the entire experience. So
for sure,
that's where we bring back the hospitality piece, where it's not just one thing. It's not just the racing, not just the food. It's all those things come together and impact people's lives in that way.
Yeah. And honestly, like with such a big operation like this, from London to the US or wherever you guys expand to in the future, right? That's a lot of people to manage. And so to have that empowerment, piece involved in, yes, you're right, it's a buzzword, but it's true. It's something that everyone kind of, I think, has at the forefront of their mind if they're really wanting to go the long, the distance, is the empowerment piece. When you're such a global brand already at the, straight out the gate, basically, it's a lot to manage. It's a lot to have quote unquote control over. And so being able to just let that happen is great. And I'm curious, I'm guessing not all the team members are going to be F1 fans like you were in the beginning and then probably convert as they get to work it. How's that been like with the team members who haven't been exposed to this.
It's so much fun, honestly, just to see the stark difference that you've got. Well, one of our first hires, she was a server in Boston, and the first time I noticed her, she wore F1 earrings for that. And I asked her, I was like, "I really like your earrings. Those are great." She's like, "I made them myself." And come to find out that when you guys talked to her, she's just a huge F1 arcade fan, and actually she wore different earrings every day. It was always F1 inspired. So, or both sides F1 inspired. So it was just, it was really exceptional to see like the passion come out. And that's just a little sense of how she could own the experience and a little talking point. And again, to the other side. So where, you see the other side where they're not F1 fans, but they sell the concept of how, it's cool. They want to be part of it. And they're just exceptional hosts and people that they want to have some fun and you could let people experience what we have to offer. So it's a lot of fun just to see the different personalities, how they all work together and blend that.
For sure. Well, you said earlier too, and sorry to kind of jump around, but you said earlier, the nostalgia feeling of an arcade where sometimes, the rides weren't that great, or the actual games themselves were kind of crappy, but somewhat fun, and the food was okay, and barely any drinks or whatever it may be. That is the true feeling, and with such a unique concept of creating a simulator and a Formula One focus kind of theme and activation and experience. Right, that it's got to be so. I'm so excited to experience it. But my thinking of, or kind of question to tee you up for, is competitiveness in the future. Right, like that hardware and software as a business is really hard because you have the sim hardware, which can change over generations of hardware because stuff is always getting better, and then software side of things, which you guys own. So how are you guys looking at that's a huge capital expense to get these 69 to 90 sim racers into these locations. I can't imagine you guys are probably thinking pretty far in advance to make sure that having to replace those 90 plus simulators per location doesn't happen often. But how do you guys look at competitiveness when it comes to just better equipment, better software, time evolving, the sport evolving, the fan evolving?
I think with any concept, you probably don't know quite what you're going to get to until you dive into all the details. Understanding that, we've gone through such a journey. Again, Adam started back in 2020 with this concept all the way to where we are today, 5 years later. There's so many lessons learned along the way, and you probably appreciate a little more. I know I've done this before, just in terms of the different nuances of what comes of this and the challenges that you have, how you overcome those challenges. But I think as sim suppliers, we've talked to so many different people, but I think it's also around the quality. So we invest heavily into the simulators. So again, the capabilities of what they are, but also with that comes the quality, it comes the experience, but also comes the longevity of what those look like. So in terms of, I think we've hopefully put a lot of measures in place to make sure that in the future they're not dying out 2 to 3 years, that we got a very long lifespan with those. So that's the hardware side, but also continue to upgrade those. So if new innovation comes out, we want to be able to make it as modular as possible to make that experience that much better as we want to be continue with the times. Because we also know in 3 years, the technology, I'm sure, will move on quite a bit. So we're able to swap out different parts, different things to, again, enhance that experience. The software side, is where it gets even more fun because I think, the sky's the limit. We've invested heavily into our IT teams and our tech teams in the background, developing our code and working through the game experience. So there's a whole pipeline that goes 3 years, I think, at this point, in terms of new enhancements we want to make to the game and what comes with that. So there's some really exciting things coming even later this year, which we're not quite ready to announce yet, Will, but very soon. We'll be talking about that. Hope by the time we get Denver open, we'll get to experience that together.
Yeah.
But fundamentally understanding, again, always making it better to where it's another reason to come back, but also it's never perfect. It's like a piece of art. You're always working on it. You're always enhancing it.
It's a great point. And you said something that just kind of set yourself up perfectly for the next question, is around loyalty, because I know loyalty is a big topic for us in the hospitality world in general, as loyalty program and points programs are becoming such a thing, or even subscription plans where like Amazon Prime type loyalty membership is. How do you guys think about loyalty in terms of getting them to come back time and time again, with this being such a thing? Like, yes, you're gonna have your diehard F1 fans like me who are probably gonna be there every weekend, but what about the newer people, the people that have experienced it once? How do you guys look at loyalty and getting people back in sim racers? And then I have another question for you, but I'll hold off before I ramble.
Everyone's origin story into F1 arcade is different. I think that's also like what brings you in the first time is interesting, and it's always interesting to hear people talk about that. To whereas, we do a lot of corporate and social events with America, so a lot with bigger groups. We do have private rooms in the space, so that can hold up to 200, 250 people. So experiencing that as part of like a corporate or social gathering, getting to see that, and then bringing a date back there, or bringing your family back during the weekends, or there's so many other reasons why to come back to F1 Arcade. So I think we tried to make the experience to where it is for everyone, which it goes back to like the 7-year-olds can get on the Sims and be competitive and have fun with that. A little bit younger could go as well, but again, we suggest 7 years old as again with the controls and how you do it. It makes it for everyone. So I think it's more about different reasons to come back. And yes, there could be those hardcore F1 fans, and also the locals that want to come back and this is their bar. If they want to come hang out on a Friday, Saturday night, have some fun. We do have DJs Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays at times. So nice. Watch parties as well. We throw some amazing parties to be able to watch the F1 races on the Sundays typically, where time permits. But even that, we wake up early. We have those because inherently we want to make it a party. We want to make it a fun experience to do that. So we try 100%. To give everyone as many reasons as possible to come back to F1 Arcade.
I love that. It's just one of the things that obviously loyalty has become such a buzzword too for us, where it's more about points and earning back rather than actual true brand loyalty, where like I'm a true loyal F1 fan. Like I'm not there for the points that they give me for going to races or for doing whatever. I'm there because it's like truly a brand thing. And so just one of those things that I'm always thinking about. And I'm sure you guys raised, and this is for the listeners too, you guys raised around $130 million in funding. So in terms of that loyalty, I'm sure you guys are going to be deploying not just cash on or capital on the Sims itself and all that, but building out the brand into the destinations and the locations you guys are in. I'm just curious to help you tee up for the listeners. What is next for F1 Arcade, and where do you guys see the brand going and expanding out to outside of just the cool locations like Denver that you guys are coming to?
Our focus right now, owned and operated, is typically where all of our teams are dedicated their time and focus on this, which is again heavily in the U.S. We think there's just so much more white space in the U.S. to go. I think you get bring this experience to, is there 100 F1 arcades in the U.S. potentially, all shapes and sizes? I mean, again, we'll have to continue to see it develop as that goes. As we've just reached in April, our 1 year mark for Boston. It's the first site in the U.S. So we're still fairly early on in our life cycle with this, how it goes. Yeah. But taking those learnings and the data and, making smart decisions as we deploy capital. But I think as we continue to enhance this, again, listening to the guests, people that are coming in, what they're looking for, and also looking that 3 to 5 to 7 years in the future at what is coming next and establishing that. Yeah. We've got an idea, a lot of strong ideas of where that's going, what's coming. I wish we could talk more. We could definitely talk more soon about what's coming, but we've got some really exciting ways to enhance the experience, but also to continue to drive, I said the experience, but to continue to work through what is next for the concept. Again, it's not just hardware, it's not just software, it's not just menu design, it's not just those things. It's really everything being elevated to within that. Yeah. So I think with understanding, where AI plays the role into this, it's going to be very interesting. And I think, no one knows what's going to happen in a year, let alone in 2 to 3 years. So I think we're also trying to work through how we incorporate that to, again, make it as realistic and as fun as we possibly can. So I think we're all in this ride together, and we're excited to see where it takes us.
Yeah. To say, John, just in curiosity, I have a random question I wanted to ask is, you're not our typical guest at Formula One and F1. It's not my typical topic, but since it does, obviously, like we tied to before, go into experiential hospitality, the way you guys think about your approach with these locations. My question to you is, what do you think with this experiential vertical becoming more and more popular? What do you think listeners can take from F1 Arcade or F1 as a brand, or just any brand outside of the world that we're so used to being in of hospitality? What do you think we could do and apply to our own businesses or make hospitality, travel, lodging more exciting as experiential hospitality is becoming more of a thing?
It's a great question, Will. I think there's a lot of things that people can do with this, but I think, one thing that the experiential industry has been able to do is take more risks, I'd say, than traditional. And I think getting outside the comfort zone and really trying to hone in on what's making a difference with this. You can't do everything, and you can't be all things to all people. So really focusing in on who your core guest is and focusing on what's enhanced their experience. I think that's where a lot of people they want to be all things to all people. That never typically works out. So I think that's also where, we talk about there's a lot of reasons to come to F1 Arcade, but we're very clear and focused on the demographics and people that we're trying to drive and trying to, bring into our spaces that also reaches further outside of that. There's always going to be nuances there. But in terms of takeaways for this, again, it's going to have to be a lot of that investment and understanding, what are the risks or what are the bold moves you're going to want to take. And I think also not be afraid to take those and try it on a certain basis. And then it doesn't work, be able to pivot to something else. So I think that's, again, we're able to do that as that's expected in the experiential hospitality, whereas I think where traditional hospitality, typically, it's good enough to have the food and the drinks and have exceptional experience with that. But I do think people in general want more out of that. I do think, even my friends or, if you and I went for a drink, Will, we would look to do something alongside of probably having a drink and do that. We want something else. I think also attention spans are getting shorter. I think it's fair to say people are getting a little more awkward as they're not as socialized as maybe there once was. You can say hell of a lot more than you have to go outside of that. This is less interactions that you're having with people. So I do think that as we continue to grow, is how do you bring people together and make it as a shared experience that you're able to talk about and you're able to break that ice a little bit more. And I do think, other ways and other hospitality segments are going to be interesting to see how that evolves over time.
For sure. It's about the word of mouth moments that aren't almost fully shareable on social, right? Like the moments you can't really capture online, but you can capture them in the mental bottle, if you will. So yeah, that's very well said.
I think it's going to be fun to see that too in the next 6 to 12 months, or that's probably too soon, probably the next 2 to 3 years, and how people get really creative and dive into that. As I think, again, we're just getting started.
Well, and also to add to your answer too, it's taken the F1 arcade concept almost, quote unquote, 5 years to come to life in the terms of the US. I know you guys launched your first one in 2022, but it's a long time to build, from 2020 to getting approached by F1 itself to then to building out this concept to today, 5 years. It's a lot of time to build out this experience. And so I think just understanding you can get a short-term rental or a hotel and do all the things, but the experience piece is always going to be the part that takes a little bit more attention to detail, a little bit more time sweat equity than anything else.
Yeah, I think it's, again, a little bit of a cliche here, but, the journey that you're going on the way, doing some really amazing things, just with some amazing people by your side, doing that. Whereas, again, the local investing, I'm a big fan of the investing. I listen to your podcast as well, Will. But in terms of what that looks like in the future, being able people to like encourage them to take the big risks and get outside their comfort zone a little bit. But the harder it is, the more rewarding it is at the same time.
100%. Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, John, for a quick little rapid fire, because you are with F1 Arcade, we have to talk a little F1 rapid fire questioning. So I'm going to do a couple questions, super simple, super easy. And we don't do this often on the show, but let's just say like first response that comes to your head is like, boom, the answer. Okay. Favorite driver?
Lewis Hamilton.
Favorite team?
McLaren.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite track that you like to watch, or a favorite race that you just feel like is the one you look forward to on the calendar every year?
Just because it's my favorite one when I play on F1 Arcade is the Austin track. So I see to do best there. So I'm going to say the Austin track or Monaco, because it's hard to beat that, isn't it?
It's a legend. It's a legendary track. If you could race any driver by themselves, one-on-one on the grid, who would it be?
The obvious answer is Lewis Hamilton, but I think Max Verstappen maybe such a run.
Top two.
Yeah, I'd say Max Verstappen because I want to be the best. I think it'd be a struggle. I'm 6'7" Will, so my likelihood of getting into a car, fitting into a car is 0. So I could solve all the game in the world. So this is all better be behind that wheel.
So I'd say sticking out like a foot and a half above the car itself.
Don't think I haven't tried, by the way, when we've had some cars come in, but it's just not meant to be for me.
Yeah, I feel I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll tell you how it is when I'm seated in.
Sounds good.
That's so funny. And then another good one, just not an F1 related. Are you a Apple guy or Android guy?
Apple, absolutely.
Apple. All right. Ski or beach destination?
Beach. Mount ski is a tougher question, but I'm a beach guy for sure.
Okay.
Living in Chicago, I think you almost have to. It's the default piece.
Yeah. You're like, it's something I have to do.
That's it.
I love it. How about tacos or pizza?
Pizza.
Beer or cocktails?
I actually don't drink beer, so that's an easy cocktail for me.
Okay. All right. I think that's it. That's all I got. Random questions, but it's always fun to do it. And my famous last question, John, if you listen to the show, like you said you did, is where can people find you or connect with you outside of the podcast if they want to learn more, discuss, geek out, etc.?
Yeah, I have a lot of fun on LinkedIn right now. Obviously I've been very active on that, so I think that's been quite a bit of fun. So I think that's probably the best place to see that. Obviously follow F1 Arcade, f1arcade.com, and take tabs on what we're doing, what's coming next. We got some exciting announcements in the future. But for me, LinkedIn, and for the business, f1arcade.com, and also our social media channels are all very active. So we have some fun with that as well.
Awesome. For all the slick talkers out there, it's already going to be all of it. All of it will be linked in the show notes. So obviously you can grab all of it. But John, honestly, so excited, to get to chat with you today. It's been a conversation I've been looking forward to for a long time. And just love what you guys are building. I think this is so cool and a great concept, and inspiring for any of the listeners today who are trying to think outside the box and get more creative with the experiences we can offer and customize for our guests. So, and obviously to talk about cars. Who doesn't enjoy it? So it's been fun and something I've enjoyed.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate the time.
Of course. All right, Slick Talkers. So show John and the F1 Arcade team all the love that you show us each and every week by liking, subscribing to all the links in the show notes, and make sure that you let them know that Will from Slick Talk sent you. And if you test out one of the locations, please send out pictures, videos, etc. I would love to see it, as I will definitely be doing the same once I get to experience the Denver location. And this will probably not be the last time that John is on the show. So stay tuned for more episodes to come. Until then, we'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to our show partners for making Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, possible. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we would love to connect with you outside of the podcast. So you can follow us on all of our social media channels for daily hospitality content, or find us on slicktalkthepodcast.com. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm your host, Wil Slickers, and we will see you guys all again next week.